Cop slips pregnant waitress note, runs to manager. Being a waitress can be a tough job at the best of times. But what if you're 8 months pregnant and you can't stop working because you're that desperate for money? That was the dilemma this waitress faced, who had been grinding it out just to save up for her maternity leave. Despite times being tough, she managed to put on a big smile every day and show top-class service to whoever crossed her path. But when an awkward policeman stepped foot inside her diner, the waitress was in for a big surprise. When he left, she took a look at the check and realized he'd written a note just for her. Waitress Courtney Cadigan had been working extra hard recently so that she could save enough money for her maternity leave. She was expecting her first child and needed all the money she could get. She's used to serving policemen who often come for a quick bite. When a cop who she was serving up got up and left, she went over to his table and saw that he'd written a message on the check specifically for her. 23-year-old Courtney Cadigan had established herself as a popular waitress at New Jersey restaurant Lamp Post Diner. She's developed something of a fan base at the diner due to her cheerful disposition. Owner Nick Hionis described Courtney as a happy-go-lucky, sweet girl who goes above and beyond. While she enjoys serving all types of customers, both old and new, Courtney continued to work at the diner, even though she went through a truly life-changing process. According to New Jersey Advance Media, Courtney was expecting her first child on April Fool's Day, of all days. Hopeful that she would have a healthy delivery, the young waitress already had a name ready for her soon-to-be-born daughter, Kaylee. When the defining incident in the story took place, Courtney was already 8 months pregnant with Kaylee, and it came at a time when the 23-year-old needed all the support she could get, and for a good reason. Things weren't completely straightforward for Courtney, with the due date fast approaching. She's no longer in a relationship with the father of her child. However, according to her father, Brian Cadigan, the ex has continued to be completely supportive through the pregnancy. Father Brian is also behind Courtney every step of the way and has been keeping her under his roof during this transitionary period of her life. According to him, she's been working extremely hard to provide for her child. While some think having a baby grounds you and maybe even prevents you from pursuing your dreams, Courtney simply doesn't see it that way. Although she enjoys being a waitress, she very much sees this job as a means to an end. Having obtained her GED a few years ago, Courtney hopes to eventually become a nurse. As for this period in her life, the waitress plans to have 6 to 8 weeks of maternity leave and is getting financially ready. Like most people, Courtney enjoys treating herself to the finer things in life. However, since she learned that she's going to be a mother, she knew she'd have to save some money to ensure that her child had the best upbringing possible. She expected it to be another day, another dollar at Lamppost Diner. However, she had another thing coming when a police officer she'd never served before walked through the diner's doors. The day of the incident was a busy one for Courtney, to say the very least. The young waitress had full tables on either side of her. Even by her standards, she had her work cut out for today. Despite being 8 months pregnant, Courtney continued working to her full potential. Throughout the day, she provided excellent service to her customers whose hearts were warmed by her bubbly nature. Then, a cop arrived at the diner who she'd never seen before. Courtney serves many police officers, especially those who work at Voorhees Township Police Department. However, when a mysterious figure with a badge walked through the doors, the waitress couldn't put a name to the face. The unassuming cop sat down alone at a table, and at this point, Courtney checked to see if any other waitresses would approach him. She didn't think too much of it, though, and served the man like she would anyone else. However, the encounter didn't go quite as expected. Normally, Courtney would gladly exchange some pleasantries with the customer before taking their order. However, it soon became clear that the cop wasn't really in the mood for small talk. "We didn't really even talk," the waitress said. "I brought him his menu, he ordered a salad, and I got it for him." The cop just wanted a quick lunch before resuming his duties. After serving him, though, the cop started to take notice when Courtney proceeded to the next table. At the most mundane of times, Courtney would find something to say to her customers. However, because she was 8 months pregnant, this was an instant starting point for conversation. "I was telling people at the table behind me that it was my first baby," she said. "I was going out of work soon." Naturally, the customers she was serving were so happy for her. However, the cop was listening at the next table and heard everything. Little did the waitress know that the cop was listening in on her conversation with the other customers. He was so close to the other table that it was impossible for him not to hear what she was saying. "He must have overheard my conversation with other customers," she said. Fast forward about 5 minutes later, and the cop had finished his salad. He was ready to get back to work, but obviously had to pay before he left. At that moment, the cop raised his hand and politely asked Courtney if he could get the check, to which she wholeheartedly obliged. She handed over the bill with the salad coming in at $8.50. Just like that, the police officer took the bill and paid for his lunch, while Courtney waited on other tables. The cop casually walked out of the diner and continued his day of work. However, when Courtney went over to his table, she noticed something extraordinary. Naturally, Courtney did what she would usually do as a waitress, proceeded over to the cop's table and clean up for the next customer. Usually, this part of the job was pretty straightforward, with a little bit of surface cleaning going a long way. On most occasions, Courtney would have been taking orders from the next customer by now. However, as she picked up the check, she noticed that the cop had written a little message on it, which was obviously directed at her. It didn't say that the message was written for anyone specific, but as soon as she finished reading it, Courtney knew it was for her. "Enjoy your first," the cop wrote. "You will never forget it." At that point, the waitress realized that the police officer had overheard her conversation with the customers next to him. Having heard that she was expecting, he wanted to share some kind of words with her. Then Courtney noticed that that wasn't all he wrote on the check. Although the salad was only $8.75, he decided to give Courtney a stunning $100 tip. The act of kindness was so unexpected, especially since the cop had been so quiet to Courtney just minutes beforehand. Usually, a waitress like Courtney would be lucky to earn that sort of money in one shift. Moreover, there was no denying that $100 would go a long way for the young lady who values every dollar she earns. At that moment, all she could do was run to the back. Just like that, Courtney broke down in tears and ran over to her boss to tell them what happened. At first, they thought that something bad had happened. However, all she had was good things to say. "It's truly a blessing to come across people like him, and I'm forever thankful for that," she told the Gloucester Township Patch. As she had calmed down a little, Courtney knew that she needed to thank the cop in person for what he had done. Courtney was desperate to thank the cop for the kind gesture he had done for her and stormed out of the diner to see if he was still in the parking lot. However, by the time she got out there, he was gone. "I'm just really grateful for the officer's kindness," she said. Shortly after her shift came to an end, Courtney rushed back home and called the Voorhees Township Police Department to see if she could contact him. While Courtney tried to get in touch with the mystery cop, her father Brian shared a photo of the check on Facebook, while also explaining what had happened. "It's not the amount, it's the humanity of it," he told New Jersey Advanced Media. He saw she was struggling and a young girl. She was working in a diner while pregnant, standing with that kind of weight on her, and it was his way of saying, "I understand your struggle." The incredible act of kindness definitely changed Courtney's and her father's previous thoughts on police officers. "You always hear how bad the police are, how they treat you like dirt, how they're on a power trip," Brian wrote. "I'm sure there are some bad apples, but most of them are just doing their jobs. They deal with the worst of society every day and have to keep going back every day and deal with it all over again." His post soon reached a lot of people. It was just a matter of weeks before Brian's post traveled far and wide across the online community. Having originally been shared by a few hundred people, the post eventually generated a stunning 10,000 reactions, as well as nearly 1,000 comments and 3.6 thousand shares. "What a wonderful thing to do. This story warms my heart. I've always respected police officers," one person wrote. And the viral post often proved to be very rewarding for the waitress in more ways than one. Ever since the post went viral, Courtney's been inundated with phone calls from all over the state and beyond. In fact, many have contacted the diner hoping to give donations to their beloved waitress. They want to know if they can help her because it's her first child, manager Victor Sierra said. "It's the gesture about somebody helping somebody else." After all this buzz, though, did Courtney ever get a chance to say thanks to the cop in person? Ultimately, the police officer who gave Courtney a tip decided that he wanted to remain anonymous. However, this didn't stop the waitress and Father Brian from showing up at the police department and bringing the team a couple boxes of donuts. "Thanks to Brian Cadigan and Courtney English for bringing in treats for our staff this morning," Voorhees Police wrote on their Twitter account. They also promised to tell the anonymous cop how grateful Courtney and Brian were for this kind gesture. Since that heartwarming story, Courtney's fortunes have gone from good to better. Not only did daughter Kaylee seem to arrive healthy into this world, but Courtney appears to be loving life more than ever. Courtney's boss, Nick Hyonis, has a theory about the waitress's gradual change in fortune. He firmly believes that good things are happening to her because who she is as a person. "Good things come to those who have that type of disposition," he said.